My name is Lene Ramberg, and I work at Oslo Metropolitan University at the Faculty of Education and International Studies. The title of the presentation is California Teachers' Experiences with the No Child Left Behind Act and its Detrimental Effects. I start to talk about the interest of the study and background information, giving you a short outline how to understand the role of the professional teacher in California, and also some of the main aspects of the No Child Left Behind Act, before I shortly present the conceptual framework and the method used. The main focus in the presentation is on the analysis of empirical material and discussion directed at the professional teacher in California in 2001 and 2012, directed at knowledge in the curriculum, student learning, and areas of knowledge by teachers. I move into the interest of the study and background information, also presenting the research question. Seeking understanding about the role of the professional teacher in California, I look at curriculum development in the USA as is part of the tradition of curriculum. This tradition has had strong degree of external control of results, student outcome, and accountability, and less trust and autonomy toward the professional teachers to decide on the curriculum content and methods. Local freedom has been at the school districts, and it has been focused on the students as active in constructing knowledge. At the end of the 1990s, the tradition of curriculum was influenced by the tradition of didactics, more content and process-oriented, with great trust given toward the professional teachers seen as having competence to teach and assess. It became an intensification of governance, and this had an effect both toward the input side, directed at the content and process side, and the output side, with test and regulation. This was characterized as a double regime of standards and tests. With this as a background carpet of the policy context in the USA, it is interesting to see that education in USA and California for the first time met with state standards tied to large-scale testing. However, with schools and teachers being given responsibility to meet standards and tests, came autonomy to decide on content, methods, and school organization. In 2002, the federal government initiated the No Child Left Behind Act, which meant that the federal government expanded their role in education, as the Constitution leaves educational matters to the state and the district. The No Child Left Behind Act was written into law, which made schools and teachers having to follow its intentions. With the act came federal money which could be applied for by states going to local schools to improve education to minority and low-income students in order to close the achievement gap. Before receiving the money, states had to agree to the rules set in the act, which the state of California agreed to. With the act, accountability systems and high-stake testing increased, and the system of accountability was termed the AYP, which stands for Adequate Yearly Proficient, meaning that all children, no matter background or disability, were to reach the goal set for what it means to be proficient each year. As we see, the policy context in California is greatly affected by a discourse of external accountability. However, teachers as professionals are given discretionary power as professionals, guided by internal accountability towards their students. Based on the outline above, the research questions are: what do teachers in California perceive as important knowledge in school in 2001 and 2012? And what is seen as knowledge important in school by the level of policy in 2001 and 2012. I now move into the conceptual framework. I used the perspective from sociology with Bernstein having a social relationship perspective directed at what knowledge is seen as important knowledge in the curriculum and for student learning. Bernstein looked at education as a collective effort, arguing that with mass schooling, whole class teaching and learning is significant. This is also because academic concepts provide cultural capital having the possibility to level social differences. Schooling provides for secondary socialization with a dynamic reciprocal process between developing individual identity and developing the community, also having the potential to transform the social and political. Bernstein divides between the vertical discourse of knowledge found in the school curriculum and the horizontal discourse of knowledge with everyday or common sense knowledge. The vertical discourse shows the instructional discourse into the regulative discourse, which shows the pedagogical theory of teachers with the perspective of teachers' pedagogical practice. This shows what understanding of the content teachers build upon in their practice. The vertical discourse is divided between performance values and competence values. Performance values can be seen through explicit pedagogic practice and the procedures of grading and also diagnostic theory and practice. External regulation through economy and the market. The content teachers build upon in their practice is externally decided with external accountability. While competence values refers to procedures for engaging with and constructing the world acquired in informal interaction, and they are practical accomplishments. Another perspective important here is from philosophy, represented by Aristoteles and also Nussbaum, with episteme as theoretical knowledge, techne as knowledge as practice, and phronesis, where different areas of knowledge come into play and teachers act as ethical and critical professionals in specific situations. Teachers meet a curriculum or need to meet a curriculum with space to act as autonomous professionals, being able to recontextualize the curriculum content, building relationship in the meeting with students. As professionals, teachers may negotiate between internal accountability, having discretionary power, where the relational aspect is important, with ethical demand for a good relationship, and external accountability, with teachers responsible for state standards tied to state tests as means to improve student achievement. We will now look into the methodological considerations. The study builds on two forms of data. Interviews with 12 teachers in 3 school districts in California in 2001 and 2012. And also policy documents, the No Child Left Behind Act, and educational policy analysis by researchers and policy groups. I have conducted a content analysis building on themes in the interview guide with task, demands, competence, and change, and also discourse analysis. I'm inspired by discourse analysis, having the attention to explore the relation between discursive practice and the wider societal and political practice. Looking also at how teachers perceive societal and political expectations. Discourses are here seen to contribute to stability and change through how ideas, values, and practice are transmitted and developed. The intention here is for the 12 teachers to show what can be illustrated as variety or variation within one teacher. We are now moving into the analysis of empirical material and analytical discussion. I'm now going to read quotes from interviews with teachers first in 2001 and then in 2012, representing characteristics of how the policy contexts affect the professional teacher in different ways. In 2001, teachers in California perceived that the professional responsibilities in the standards provide for teachers having a wide view on the curriculum and a wide view on children learning. The analysis shows that all teachers bring forward the importance of teaching as directed at the threefold goal developing students academically, where many different subjects are emphasized. Nevertheless, with weight on developing students socially and emotionally. So the first quote is, I think our job today encompasses all areas of the child really. I mean, you are a psychologist, you're a mother, you're definitely a parent. They need people to set values, just common things like you do not hit someone. That is not how we handle our problems. You know, we used to know talking voice in the classroom. I mean, things that you and I probably learned in kindergarten. They are just now still having to deal with those same issues. So I find that as a teacher, it's really you have to know how to do everything. You have to know about places to refer them to if they are having problems or difficulties. A lot of counseling and psychological, as well as if they are not dressed properly for school, or if they are neglected, their parents do not have any money for food. You have to know where all the resources are to be able to help them. So it is more of a social work, I feel, type of position than I ever imagined it to be. Teachers also have a wide view on children learning, taking use a variety of methods, looking at children as subjects, taking part in constructing own knowledge, meeting individual children need. The next quote shows how teachers differentiate and take in use assessment for learning, working on samples of writing. And then writing right now is either journal writing, the beginning of the year, and now we're doing something called Writers Workshop, where there are writing stories that are student generated, and they go through the entire writing process while they're doing that. So they brainstorm and they write ideas down and they make the story map and they draft and correct and then either write in the book or a piece of paper in the best writing or type it up in a computer, and then they publish it in our classroom. And then they have an opportunity to do author's chair where you're an author. You get to read your work to the whole class and then we give 3 appreciations and 3 questions to the author. So it's been wonderful, loving it. So it's great. So in 2001, all teachers in California perceived that they have autonomy taking decisions about content, method, and classroom organization, meeting individual children needs for work, future, and critical thinking, combining the vertical and horizontal discourse and knowledge. Lifted forward across the empirical material is how all teachers perceive that all children learning is a complex and complicated process. Different areas of knowledge come into play as teachers make careful reflection based on practical wisdom, developing relationship with students having internal accountability. At the end of the last century, the professional responsibilities in the standards are also talked about by teachers in 2001, tied to different policy efforts with aspects of building collaborative cultures and teachers taking part in school and educational development at different levels. One teacher said that it is a very exciting time. There are a lot of opportunities for shaping the way education is going to go, the direction that education is going to go within the next 5 years because of the political impact towards accountability. The districts are given the responsibility for creating the programs, which is show that there are accountability to the teachers. So there is an awful lot of opportunities for taking what someone thinks is important in education and institutionalize it. Make sure that it shows up in children's individual programs. You know, I would always say that it is the most important thing that you can do. The opportunity for shaping human lives, the way they feel about their ability and their picture of the world is very, very important responsibility. You know, if someone is interested in doing that, if they want to have a job, has a big impact and a very strong positive force, that is the place to take direction of your life. All teachers in California describe how the professional responsibility in standards give the possibility of curriculum planning individually and through collaborating with colleagues, providing for opportunities to take part in developing curriculum with pedagogy for children to learn. The introduction of state standards provides for overarching educational goals, and tied to this are that teachers take part in developing goals and purposes, developing educational knowledge, working with the districts or the teacher union. Looking across the empirical data, teachers' answer range from teachers that perceive the professional responsibilities in the standards as providing for greater possibilities, having wide view on curriculum for all children to develop and learn, taking in use knowledge important for students now and in the future. They take both an individual and societal perspective on knowledge. The professional responsibility in the standards provide for opportunities for teachers to develop. However, as you see in the 3 quotes here, I'm not going to read those because of the time, but with external accountability, the standards are tied to test scores, and teachers negotiate own professional role between the vertical and horizontal knowledge. The No Child Left Behind Act was put in place for school districts, schools, and teachers to increase student outcome through standards-based reform measured on tests, and different policy strategies were tied to the Act. With the No Child Left Behind Act, greater accountability measures are placed on schools and teachers. After the introduction of the No Child Left Behind Act, the empirical material shows that in 2012, the threefold goal in teaching has shifted, leaning more towards the importance of teaching and developing children academically, even though they do focus on social and emotional development and learning of students. In 2012, all teachers focus on teaching the academics, directed at teaching the state standards, as you see in the first quote. Because of the time, I'm not going to read it out loud. At the same time, there is tension in the answer by teachers, where it seems as most teachers are leaning toward a view where the focus on the standards are becoming so extensive that it is narrowing the curriculum. Part of this is because the standards are tied to the state's test and different accountability measures, as you see in the second quote, saying that children are identified by texts. The first quote in this slide show how teachers' focus is on the standards and the tests, and having more limited areas of knowledge due to the external accountability. However, in the second quote, some teachers do perceive that to do a good job, you need to focus on the student building relationships at the same time as being aware of how policy context with the No Child Left Behind Act place greater demands on standards tied to test scores, raising the level of student achievement, facing an increase in the vertical discourse on knowledge with performance values and external accountability. Teachers in California in 2012 are able to experience some autonomy inside own classroom, nevertheless also having the ability to be critical and resist external demands, focusing on the relational aspect as ethical professional with internal accountability. The discussion shows that there are broader areas of knowledge by teachers as professionals in California in 2001 than in 2012. In 2012, teachers combined the horizontal and vertical discourse of knowledge, balancing between academic, social, and emotional knowledge, differentiating toward individual student learning. Vertical and horizontal discourse of knowledge with increase in responsibility and autonomy. They have opportunities for phronesis, and teachers negotiate between internal and external accountability with space to act as ethical critical professionals balancing within broader areas of knowledge. In 2012, teachers combined the horizontal and vertical discourse of knowledge, nevertheless, with weight on the vertical discourse of knowledge, meeting state standards due to state tests, differentiating toward individual student learning. The vertical discourse dominates, and teachers ask for the dimension of phronesis. External accountability increases with less space for teachers to act and less possibility for the relational aspect of knowledge of teachers as critical professional, leaning more towards a technical instrumental professional. And thank you for your attention.